Yesterday, we talked about what? Substitution, right? What are the three ways that you know that we can solve a system of equations? Graphing, substitution, elimination. Exactly. Okay? With these kind of systems with three variables, are we graphing? No, right? I showed you how to do it. I showed you what it looks like, but we're not going to use that to try to solve a system. Okay? So yesterday we did substitution, so today we're doing elimination. All right? So let's work on elimination. Is that all right with you? Of these three variables, we could actually start with any of them. We could actually start eliminating any of them, x, y, or z. All right? Depending on the problem situation, one of them will typically be the better choice. I'm not saying the best choice, because your best choice might not be my best choice, depending on my preference or your preference. Okay? But I want to talk through these and make sure you understand why the one I'm choosing I think is the best choice or the better choice. Is that fair? Okay? So looking at the variables x, y, and z, remember what we're trying to do is eliminate a variable. And because now there's three variables, we're going to end up having to eliminate two different times. That's okay. All right? The y's are the last variable I would choose. Okay? Because even though they're opposite signs, see how these are negative and that's a positive? That's a really good thing that they're opposite signs. None of the numbers in here are like multiples of each other. It doesn't make it hard. And these aren't really big numbers per se, but there's an easier choice in this place, in this problem. Okay? Z is what I would choose next if I was choosing from the bottom. Okay? Z still would not be my first choice, because even though they're opposite signs, see here's a positive, and then this one's a negative, and even though there's a multiple, right, 2 divides evenly into 6, that would be nice, but 2 doesn't divide evenly into 5, or 5 doesn't divide evenly into 6. You see what I'm saying? So by process of elimination, you could tell that I would choose to eliminate the x's, right? The reason I would choose to eliminate the x's is because even though they're not opposite signs, that's not too big of a problem. The x has a variable that's by itself. Of all the x's, one of them's by itself. That's going to make it a lot easier when I choose what to multiply by here. Does that make sense? So if I'm going to become a variable assassin, I just need to make something clear. Assassins, that's illegal, right? A variable assassin, that is legal. It is. It's allowed. Okay? But to be an actual assassin, that is illegal. So probably that's a bad career choice. Okay? I'm not saying you wouldn't make a lot of money in it. I'm saying it's illegal. All right? I mean, plus you'd have to be really good at it. And to be really good at that, you'd have to practice. And I don't want you to do that. Okay, you ready? Variable assassins. We can practice being variable assassins. You ready? If we're going to assassinate the x's, if we're going to get rid of the x's, what do you want to do? How are we going to get rid of an x? Remember, what I'm going to do is combine two equations together, and that variable has to go away. So if this is an x and this is a 3, what does this actually need to be? A negative 3. That's exactly right. So let's draw parentheses. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to do some of the writing today. Bryn's going to help me out with some of the writing today, okay? To make it hopefully a little bit more legible, okay? We're going to multiply this first equation by negative 3, and Bryn's going to write it for me right there, right beside, okay? While she's writing, and while you're writing, I'm going to make a comment about some things that I saw yesterday, okay? Everything by negative 3. One of the biggest problems I saw yesterday was that you didn't take the time to make sure what you copied down was actually the problem that you were doing. I do not mean any disrespect. I have totally done that before. Okay? So when you write down the problem, guys, take a couple seconds to check and make sure that the problem you wrote down is actually the problem that's in the book. Okay? Check the signs, check the numbers. Because it's a super giant pain, negative 63. It's a super giant pain to get all the way to the end of the problem and realize you just worked for 10 minutes and you know the problem's wrong because I told you it wouldn't have any fractions and you got fractions, only to realize that you missed a negative sign when you wrote the problem down. Take a couple minutes when you originally write the problem down to go back through and make sure every single thing here is right. Okay? Again, I don't mean that disrespectfully at all. I'm trying to save you some time. Okay? So, we multiplied the first equation by -3, and we got -3x plus 9y minus 18z equals -63. Does everybody agree with that? Okay. Now, would you go ahead and write the second equation right underneath there? We are not changing the second equation at all. She's just writing it right underneath where we were writing before to make it a little easier to see. Is that fair? Okay. Thank you. Now, go ahead and draw a line under it, and let's combine these two equations. -3x and +3x? 0, right? 9 and 2? 9y, 2y? 11y. -18z and -5z? -23. -23z, good. And -63 and -30? -93, good. Now, this is the hardest part for some people. Leave it alone. Don't mess with that one. What do I have right here? I have an equation with two variables, a y and a z. If I have one equation with a y and a z, what do I need? Another equation with y and z. So I'm going to start over. I'm going to ignore this part for a second. I'm going to start over. I'm going to go back and eliminate the x again. I use the top and the middle. I can either use the top and the bottom or the middle and the bottom. Which one would be your choice? Top and the bottom would be the wisest choice. We can still get the answer if we use the middle and the bottom, but the wisest choice is the top and the bottom. Please, somebody tell me why. It's already by itself. What would I have to do if I use the middle and the bottom? I'd have to multiply both of them, right? Now, somebody earlier said, I didn't even know you could do that. And I was like, well, I already told you once that we could when I taught you the first time. I was respectful. Okay? But you are allowed to multiply both equations by something to get a variable to cancel. Do you remember that? Okay, so, but let's make the wise choice here. Let's use the top and the bottom. So, if we're using the top equation and the bottom equation, what are we multiplying the top equation by? -2. Okay, so just have it underneath right there. So -2x plus 6y minus 12z equals -42. -2. Yep. And now let's rewrite the bottom equation right underneath it. That's not something you have to do. That's something organizational wise. I like to group it in different places on my paper so I don't get lost in my own work. Okay, some of you, I was trying to help with your homework yesterday and I was getting lost in your work because everything's just shoved together. You want so badly to save paper that you're willing to shove everything together. Okay? This one? That's a good question. Can someone please tell her how we got that this first equation right here? We multiplied this top one by -2. That's a good question also. How do we know it's a -2?
So we have to eliminate the 2x.
I'm trying to eliminate the x again. So in order to combine it with the bottom, so it'll go away, I need this to be a -2 since this is a +2. So I multiply the whole thing by -2. Okay? Now, earlier somebody said, why can't I just, like, add 2 to it? Yeah, adding 2 to stuff changes the value of the equation, doesn't it? It's not an equation any longer if I start adding 2. Okay? Multiplying everything in the equation keeps the equation the same equation. It's just a higher multiple. All right? So let's go ahead and combine these two equations. Are you good now? Yes? Okay. So that's a 0. 6y and -5y. 1y or just y. negative 12z and 2z, negative 10z, and then negative 42 and negative 6, negative 48. Excellent. Now what? So now, I just need to start all over again, don't I? Not from here, but from here, right? Now I need to I get to be a variable assassin again. Again. Which variable do you choose to assassinate? Number 1, doesn't matter. No, it does not matter. Number 2, is there a better choice? Y is a better choice, okay? Let's scoot this over a little bit. What would you, we don't have to do that, that's fine, because this is more like the width of their paper. So, what would you like to multiply either of the equations by to try to eliminate the y? Negative 11 on the top equation or the bottom? So multiply this equation by a negative 11. Let's write it right below. Minus 110. Z equals negative 528. Oh, that's a good call. Very good. That should also be positive then. Did you guys do that in your head like I did? You can do that in your head. 48 times 11? Do you know the trick about 11s? Write down the last number, write down the first number. We kind of did that. We for sure wrote down the last number. I had the first number in my head. What's 4 plus 8? 12. So I have to add 12 right here to the 40, and I get 52. 528. We're going to work on our number sense. We're going to work on our comfortableness with numbers. Okay? I'm not going to ask you to do that in your head every time, but I might sometimes just to practice. Okay? So let's go ahead and write the top equation right down below this, so that they're next to each other. Even though there's a chance that we could mess up recopying an equation, a lot of times people like to see them closer together. It helps them out a lot when they're adding them together or combining them. Okay? So let's go ahead and combine these now. What do we get? 110 minus 23. 87. Good. 87z. And then 529 minus 93. 425? 435, excuse me. 435. So divide both sides by 87. Z equals? There were some people earlier that got mad about that. These are giant numbers and we're going to get an answer like 5? I'm sorry, do you want me to make it harder? I'm sorry you got such a nice answer. I don't know what you mean to say. Okay? Now, the other thing that I saw yesterday in helping you guys with your homework, answering questions and stuff like that, is once you get an answer, I want you to circle it or put a box around it or something, because you're losing it. You're losing the answer in all of your other work. Okay? Do something to know where that answer is to go back to. Okay? Now that we have Z, what do we do with it? Where? All the Z's in the whole world? In the simplest one. Which one is the simplest Z to put it back into? So this one? Oh, she's like, no. Like I'm some sort of idiot. Except that's what people have been saying all day. Go back to the beginning. No, we don't want to go back to the beginning, guys. Look at this equation right here. This one's already solved for y, and it only has a y and a z. And if I know z, I can figure out y. Okay? So let's go. You can go out here to the side somewhere if you want. So y minus 10 times 5 equals negative 48. Anybody know what 10 times 5 is? So y minus 50 equals negative 48. So when we add 50 to both sides, y equals 2. Now where do we go? Now we need to go back to the beginning, don't we? Okay? Does it matter which one we go back to? No, it does not. But is there a wisest one? The top one. Okay? So let's rewrite the top equation, but put in what we know. So x minus 3 times 2. Good. Plus 6 times 5 equals 21. So x minus 6 plus 30 equals 21. Anybody know what negative 6 plus 30 is? 24. X plus 24 equals 21. So, yep, subtract 24 from both sides. Negative 3. Good job. Now we write our answer, right? What's our answer? Negative 3, 2, 5. Guys, somebody said, is it just like from least to greatest all the time? It is alphabetical, right? Now, does it happen to be least to greatest in this problem? Yeah, but it's not always what we do, right? Alphabetical, x, comma, y, comma, z. All right, any questions about this? This is solving a system of equations with 3 variables by elimination.